Today, how do you introduce yourself?
I don't usually introduce myself. I just call myself Louis. I try and hide that I'm a doctor most of the time, unless I'm pushed.
Okay.
Unless I'm pushed. What do you do? What do you do?
How Dr. Lewis, the surgeon, got inspired and moved into becoming a movement coach. How did that happen?
My father's a founder, so he works 24/7. And I knew for sure that I didn't want to work 24/7, but I wanted to make money. So the only option was to go out of India. And I actually reached the target that I wanted. I went abroad, I was making money, but I was physically a ruin. And as soon as I got back is when I had my first son. Then I realized that I had to become healthy if I had to be a part of his life.
Why do you think founders have this notion that they are sometimes invincible when their body is also telling them otherwise?
So it's always one target to the next, one target to the next, and I'll fix myself later. I'll heal myself later. I'll take rest later.
There's always this the startup scale up heroism involved. How much of it is, I'm wondering, basic human ego?
You're saying like ego is a bad thing.
Most often, we come across a news article which probably says a founder has secured the next big round of funding or has had a successful exit. But what most founders probably neglect is their own body and mind. Dr. Louis George is someone who has personally witnessed what can happen when ambition outruns personal well being. As an orthopedic surgeon, as a movement coach, as a devoted father, he's been helping people not just build strength, but also gain respect for themselves. Today, we dive in to understand the hidden cost of the founder mindset. Let's dive right in. Dr. Lewis,
Right.
welcome to our show.
Thank you.
Doctor, you're a surgeon, a movement coach, a father. How do you how do you introduce yourself apart from these titles?
I don't usually introduce myself. I just call myself Louis. I try and hide that I'm a doctor most of the time, unless I'm pushed.
Okay.
Unless I'm pushed. What do you do? What do you do? Fine. I say I'm an orthopedic surgeon. I don't operate much because I don't really enjoy operating anymore.
Okay.
I prefer to fix things through movement.
Okay.
So yeah, I would rather think of myself as somebody who uses a holistic approach towards getting people healthier.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, so asking me to introduce myself is you know bounce right out of the nut.
All right. So, I'm sure you already know we've discussed this. The core purpose of the show is to explore the hidden costs of a founder's success on their body and mind.
Yeah.
And uh, I'm sure you must have noticed, especially when you've met a lot of high performers, when they come to you, they typically have, consciously or unconsciously, I don't know, they have, I would like to term it a God complex, where, you know, you're expected to have answers to everything. Being in a founder ecosystem, it's usually that a lot of critical decisions are made by the founder themselves. You're expected to make things right. But my question is, at what cost? Right? So that is what we are exploring here today. And before we dive into that particular segment, can we discuss your turning point? How Dr. Lewis, the surgeon, got inspired and moved into becoming a movement coach? How did that happen?
Well, even before I was a surgeon, I was a physician. I started off in internal medicine, and I wanted to. I had a path planned in front of me. By the time I was in school, I'd already decided I was going to be a physician, and I decided I'd get into medical college. My parents tried to discourage me, saying it's a tough life, don't do it. But I didn't listen. Went into it. And when I got in, I had the same idea that quite a few of my classmates have, which is to make a lot of money. So basically, leave India, make a lot of money, and then live happily ever after
Out of India.
out of India. Okay, because there was no money to be made as a doctor in India. I come from a family of doctors. And they do well, but I've seen the kind of life they have to live in order to make that money. So my father's a founder, like you say. So he works 24/7. And I knew for sure that I didn't want to work 24/7, but I wanted to make money. So the only option was to go out of India. So I went abroad and I started making money, and I was on the path as a physician to become a physician when I found out that I wasn't happy with the way the medical system was set up, and I became disillusioned with the way a physician treats a patient. It's basically pharma oriented, and it didn't make sense to me. So I had to make a quick turn and decide this life is not for me. And the other thing that I found out when I went abroad was all the money in the world wasn't make me happy. So I decided to come back to India, which would mean taking a pay cut of 1/20th of what I was earning there. And that wasn't enough to live in India anyway. So it was a tough time. Came back, then I decided I don't want to be a physician, but I've already invested 10 years of my life into the medical career. So I pivoted to surgery, where I thought I will do less harm than if I was pushing pills.
Okay.
And since I was always interested in movement, by that time I had decided that I want to become healthy with movement. And living abroad under this sort of a first world pressure made me very unhealthy. And as soon as I got back is when I had my first son. And then I realized that I had to become healthy if I had to be a part of his life. So I took a good look at this that stage.
I remember, once I think you showed me that photograph. Now you look like two different people.
Yeah, I probably had one more inside of me. That was pretty big. And so having a son born was, and I looked at myself and I said, this is not the example I want to be for him. And I don't want him to go through the same physical illness that I'm going through. So I decided to get healthy. And so I became a little more disciplined with my diet, and I became interested in exercise. Till then, I was a couch potato. And once I got interested in exercise, then I thought I should move into physical medicine. And so, physical medicine, I then went into orthopedic surgery. And once I got into orthopedic surgery, I realized that I didn't really need to operate on people in order to make them healthy. I could show them how to prevent disease, and I could show them how to rehab disease, because I knew how to move, how to train them to move so that they could get healthier. So what I started movement as treatment, but then I realized that that was only part of the treatment. You'd also have to look at what they eat, how they live, the kind of relationships they are in, whether they're sleeping enough, whether they're resting enough. And so I was kind of forced into holistic medicine finally, even though movement was my initial uh, niche. I had to branch out again. So I went from niche to branching out again. And that's how I got to where I am now.
That's an interesting angle, doctor. And also, it brings up a question for me. We were discussing about the God complex earlier. So, why do you think founders have this notion that they are sometimes invincible when their body is also telling them otherwise?
They have to block it out. No? So they've got a goal, they've got this long-term goal in their mind, they've got this dream they're chasing. And if they take breaks, that dream is going to get further. So they have to so they have to block out their frailty. They've got to block out that they need rest and they need to chase that target. Um, so it's always one target to the next, one target to the next, and I'll fix myself later. I'll heal myself later. I'll take rest later. This is what I went through when I was chasing my targets, and I actually reached the target that I wanted. I went abroad. I was making money, but I was physically a ruin. And then so I think that's the same thing. Right? You always keep thinking there's time. I'll fix it later. I'll fix it later.
There's always this what do you call, a startup scale up heroism involved. And how much of it is, I'm wondering, basic human ego?
Well, you're saying like ego is a bad thing.
No, I don't mean it in that sense. I'm trying to understand, and probably if you can break it down for our audience on how different level of egos work.
Well, I'm not a psychologist, but I'll see. So, ego is part of you, and it's there to defend you, and it's there to help you achieve your goals. Uh, yeah, but sometimes it overpowers the rest of you.
Okay,
And so, the ego is basically it might be because you're overcompensating for something.
correct.
So, you had insecurities in your childhood, and you're trying to get past it by achieving something that you were told is a worthwhile goal, and you're chasing that goal without actually examining yourself. Is that goal really yours, or is it being put into your head by some insecurity in your childhood, or some programming that was given to you when you were internalized when you're younger? So getting that, trying to differentiate between what is your own goal and what is society's goal, or what is your childhood insecurities goal, that that is the tough part.
Okay. Doctor, so at least the founders I've met, when I think of their success today, um, I think this is just my assumption. I kind of trace it back to their childhood. It's probably triggered by a memory or the want for something which is usually absent back then. And to get that sense of fulfillment, they give it their all, even pushing past limiting beliefs. They want to give it their best. So, is that usually what you also notice?
Well, I've seen many, and there's very few that'll trace it back to just one memory. Of course, there are people who do that, who will say, "I had this major traumatic memory in event in my childhood that led me to decide on that day, or this moment, from this moment on, I'm going to be aiming for this because I don't want this to happen to me again." That is one sort of a. I've seen it. It's very dramatic, and that's usually what you'll see in the movies. But most people don't have one single memory where they decide.
Okay.
So it's usually a combination of multiple small incidences which they don't really track, but they get the overall trend. And okay, so now they've had this past, and now they want to steer it away from there. So it's kind of a reaction towards that. Um, so the insecurities and the trauma that you talk about, it need not be a single event. It can be multiple events that they can't really recollect, but it leaves them with a feeling of being inadequate or not having enough self-worth. And so they're trying to satisfy that self-worth by uh, attaching worth to something that they're trying to achieve. And so they start to
It's
see.
decided by whom or what?
Yeah, that's the problem. See, if they know that it is coming from an insecurity and they're consciously, that's fine. If they want, if they understand that this target they're chasing is because of that insecurity, and they're still deciding to chase it,
Okay.
I'm okay with that. What I'm not okay with is if they don't realize that they're chasing this target out of an insecurity, and they're pushing themselves for an unconscious reason, then I'm a bit wary. I'd rather that they knew why they were doing it and they still choose to do it. I'm okay.
Okay.
And so that's one way how insecurities in childhood trauma leads to overachieving or pushing hard to achieve. This sense of self-worth is important because again they're attaching worth to things that are not really internal. So some of them say, I would like to have a high-end luxury car or a really massive house. And I'm working towards that. And I need to push myself hard so that I make that much money and achieve that goal. But then if I ask them why does it matter? Why do you need that car? Or why do you need that massive house? They don't have a very coherent answer.
Okay. So, in this pursuit, somewhere down the line, your body or mind becomes an afterthought.
Yes.
And how can we address this today? What kind of warning signals should founders not ignore when they are in this pursuit?
There's some very easy warning signals that you can pick up, right? So physically, you start getting tired. Yeah, you need naps after meals, or you're irritable and you're snapping at your coworkers, or you might be really good with your coworkers and your employees, but you'll come home and lose it with your family. Uh, or if uh, if you're not able to focus like you were able to before, if you're if everything's going well in your company and your life, but you're starting to gain weight, you're getting injured more frequently in the gym, or you're burning out, you lack the drive that you used to have before, or you develop some sort of an autoimmune disease, Hashimoto's usually, uh, or skin diseases, psoriasis, or all of these autoimmune diseases. So everything's fine. Physically, they seem to be in top condition. Mentally, they seem to be top condition. Everything's going well, but something's giving, and that's usually the body breaking down in ways that you don't immediately recognize as overwork or overstress. So yeah.
So, how are these stress factors connected? As in your work pressure, it's obviously there when you're in pursuit, the kind of food you consume, and also the people you're around with. If it is, again, at work, if it is a toxic work culture, can that also harm the body in many ways?
See, the main connection is that all stress is responded to by the body using the same system, the adrenaline, noradrenaline, and the cortisol system. Now, the adrenaline, noradrenaline will respond immediately, and the cortisol comes later. So, if you've got a stress that is immediate and it's gone immediately, it's usually just the adrenaline and noradrenaline and a small spike of cortisol, and then you're done.
Okay.
If it's stress that stays with you for a long time, the cortisol system starts to have to act because it needs to keep you supplied with energy. So that's a good thing. But if it goes on for weeks and days and this cortisol is constantly high, that starts to wear you down. Now, all stressors, all stressors act through this particular system. Now, that can be work stress, it can be a toxic environment, it can be a physically toxic environment where the air is polluted and there's a lot of noise in your environment. It might be poor food habits, it might be a chronic infection, it can be a disordered family life, anything. So, all of these stresses, all of them act through the same system. So if you've got stress in one part of your life, it's not going to leave the rest of it unaffected. You might be able to suppress it in one part of the life, but it is going to then pop up somewhere else.
Does it also manifest as pain in your body?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So if your cortisol, if your stress is constantly elevated and your body is more focused on fighting that particular stress that you're focused on, the rest of the repair systems will back off because now all of that energy gets focused into the stress that you're dealing with. Now, so you're going to have problems with chronic pain because the musculoskeletal system, which undergoes slow degeneration, doesn't get repaired regularly enough, and you get chronic pain. Now, it can also turn up as a sudden injury. So people will think I was walking by and I stumbled and I fell down. That's not that's not an injury. It's
It's
not
been building up over
it's
time.
been building up overnight. So over many weeks. It's not a sudden thing. Um, so people might come to me with an ACL injury, a ligament injury, and they'll say it was sudden. I was playing and I fell down. But if you look at their movement pattern, you can see that this particular movement where the foot is planted and the femur is locked and it's turning the opposite way, that was predisposed to based on their movement patterns long before they fell. And on top of that, this chronic stress has made the ligament more and more lax. It has made the chronic stress has made the muscles more and more weak. So now you've got the faulty movement pattern, which has been building up for a long time. You've got the ligament that's weakened by the chronic stress, and you've got the muscle that is weakened by the chronic stress. So it's not going to protect the ligament anymore like before. So even sudden injuries are not sudden. You can see the pattern building up. So in quite a few of my patients, you'll see lots of them with ankle injuries, recurrent ankle injuries, and each ankle injury predisposes them to the next.
Okay.
And the ankle injury uh, itself becomes a source of stress. So it's a very tangled web.
So, to just build better relativity for the audience, can I ask you what kind of common breakdowns you've seen? Can you cite one or two instances in your patients where you've observed either hormonal or nervous system?
There's basically two kinds of patterns that I've seen. One is a slow, gradual breakdown, and they don't really notice it till suddenly one day they're 20 kilos overweight. And that's a metabolic breakdown. That takes longer to occur. It's more insidious. You don't notice it. The other one is a very sudden breakdown, and that's usually musculoskeletal. That's things like a low back pain that came out of nowhere, but actually, no, it's been happening for a long time, or a knee injury, or an ankle injury, or a shoulder injury. All of these are the two main patterns in which I see a breakdown. The metabolic breakdown can take forms of diabetes, or high cholesterol, or high blood pressure, or even autoimmune diseases like I talked about earlier. Hashimoto's, thyroid disease is very common. Uh, so yeah, that is a metabolic breakdown. The mechanical breakdown is usually low back or hip. No, the hip isn't usually a problem. The low back and the knee are the main areas where they break down suddenly. They think it's sudden, but it's not. It's been happening for a while.
Okay. So, brings up my next question. So, these founders are in pursuit of chasing the one big dream. I'm wondering if, slowing down a bit, what good can it do for them? Can it make them more sharper and more focused? How do they do that mindfully?
Yeah, see, good question. Because yesterday I had a patient who was talking about just this. Uh, One thing I would like to point out is most of my patients, founders who turn up to me like this, they're mostly women. The men don't even turn up for advice. The women will look for advice. But even when they look for advice, they don't want to take it because most of my advice is slow down.
Okay.
And when I tell them to slow down, there's considerable pushback because uh, I'm stopping them from achieving their goals, or I'm trying to change the way they approach their goal. So the example that I wanted to talk about yesterday was she's very high achieving. She's done everything perfectly. She's going to the gym. She's been going to the gym for 20 years, and she's really good at it. And she pretty much self medicates using exercise.
Oh, okay.
And so now she's in her 40s. She's starting to see the signs of approaching menopause. It's probably 5 to 7 years away, but she's starting to see it. And so I asked her to slow down. Uh, and she doesn't want to. She's like, "Are you telling me that I'm old?" I said, "I'm not telling you that you're old. I'm telling you that you're changing. You need to adapt. Because if your business environment changes, you would adapt.
You would adapt.
You wouldn't hold on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Correct.
None of these founders have any problems adapting to a new business environment. But when their actual body starts to change, they don't want to adapt. So they show a lot more kindness to their own business, but they don't show the same kindness to their own body.
That's, I think, an interesting take for founders. Be more kind to your body.
Yeah, and I argue at it from this point because your business runs on your body.
Absolutely.
If
Correct.
if you're the founder, your body is the most important body in that business. Shouldn't you be a little more kind to it? That was my question. So hopefully she'll come back to me and not be irritated by my very
You
direct
also
approach.
mentioned that women come to you more seeking advice. Is there a definitive reason why men don't turn up and address this?
I think it's that you can't admit that you need help.
Isn't the God complex we spoke about earlier?
Yeah, so probably because they've always done things on their own.
Yeah.
And nobody's helped them out, and they've learned to do it by themselves, and they can push harder. Uh, so why not keep pushing?
Hmm.
So the women will turn up early, and they will somehow manage to stave off the physical crisis. The men will break. They will, even when they break, they're not willing to stop. So that reminds me of another patient of mine who had chest pain, and it was a heart attack. It was a literal heart attack,
Okay.
and he didn't want to stop.
Oh.
So the way he responded to that chest pain was, that is a sign of weakness.
Okay.
I should exercise that weakness out of me. So he climbed
He ignored the
60
signal.
he climbed 60 flights of stairs with that chest pain. I was amazed that he didn't die. So that is the kind of mentality that men bring to their bodies, because they are literally going to war. This is what our biology is wired for, and they would rather die at the post than back off and go to the medical tent.
Okay.
Yeah. So he continued to push for 3 days. He continued to exercise with a chest pain that was running down his left arm. Typical textbook.
Okay.
Of course, not every chest pain that runs down your left arm is cardiac,
Correct.
but he managed to run 10 kilometers, climb 60 flights of stairs, all on consecutive days. And then finally, finally he couldn't get out of bed. The pain was that severe. So he was carted into a hospital.
Okay.
He had a bypass done that day. It was that bad. And his troponin levels were sky high. I'm very fond of him, but he tried to kill himself, basically. So yeah, so it's a little more careful.
If he would have noticed that signal earlier, how could we avoid such a situation? Let's say he noticed this and he felt that I need to get medical attention. Would he have gone through so much of pain?
I think what most of them are trying to, there is a significant distrust with the medical system right now. So you go into a hospital, you're going to get scammed top to bottom. They're going to find something wrong with you, and then they're going to ask you to stop everything that you're doing. This is what they're trying to avoid, because this is their purpose in life, and the doctor or the medical system is going to stop
Get in
them,
their way.
cut them out from their purpose in life. And taking somebody's purpose away from life is pretty much the same as death. So they would rather physically die than die without purpose. So that is why they're avoiding coming into hospital. They know that the chest pain going to the arm is cardiac, and they have that fear inside them, but they don't want it to come true. So staying out of the hospital is one way to avoid bringing it to truth, or making it happen. And in most cases it works, because most cases it's not actually cardiac. But can you actually gamble with something like that? Now, the solution to that would be to have a medical system that is slightly more balanced in its approach, where every case is not treated as life threatening. You take time to look at the case, and if it is life threatening, intervene immediately. If not, you bring this particular patient into confidence and say, see, this is what we have found. There is some risk. Why don't we work together to fix it in a gradual manner, rather than say, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this. So if you go to a corporate hospital with a chest pain, or and there's a slight ECG change, they're immediately going to say, stop going to the gym, stop going to work, start taking these medications, and that is going to slow them down, and they don't want that to happen. There isn't this is a new environment,
Correct.
and now you've got to adapt to it. So you're trying to find a compromise in between complete uh, becoming a patient completely, or becoming a CEO who doesn't care about his body. There has to be a middle path. So that middle path is not really an option for most people right now. partly because they don't know it's available, and partly because the dominant medical system right now doesn't think about the
What's
middle path.
available to us as a middle path?
The middle path is available only if you're not in an emergency situation. Like if you're in the middle of a heart attack, there is no point looking at the middle path. Go into the corporate system. But if you can head it off, if you can speak to a doctor that you trust, who's not going to shut you down and who's not going to tell you to limit your life, instead try and find ways with you.
That would be a good start.
That would be a good start. So if you can do a yearly blood test, um, ECG, echo, abdominal ultrasound, that's about it. Mostly that's what most people need.
Okay.
And once you see those results, it's not blanket statements. You need customized action plan that you can stick to.
Okay. You need to adapt accordingly.
Yeah, and you need to have your priorities clear. So there's people who will say, I'm absolutely not going to give up my weekend drink, and I have difficulties with those people, but still, you respect that priority, and then you ask them, why is that weekend drink so important to you? Then you might find out that this is the only time they get to sit down with their friends and uh, relax and talk about each other. So then the argument, then the bargaining starts. And you say, "Can you limit it to one drink rather than five?" So that kind of thing. So each person, there are no hard and fast rules when it comes to the middle path. Uh, so
Find a balance.
find a balance, and it is a negotiation. And the patient needs to understand that he's not negotiating with the doctor; he's negotiating with his own body.
Correct.
And the doctor is basically advocating for his body, and the patient is advocating for his goals or his plan for his life. And so, but he doesn't have all the information that will help him decide that middle path. So this is where this sort of a practice needs to happen.
So, what happens if two instances come to my mind? What happens if somebody, like you said, trying to find a balance, they're cutting down on their weekly dose of alcohol or maybe cigarette smoking? And on the other hand, there's a person who's come off it all. He's not into smoking or drinking anymore. How would their lives unfold? Both probably in their 30s.
In their 30s, there's a lot of hope because there's a lot of time left to fix things. So for somebody who's done everything right and still suffering from ill health, that means that their stress, the stress that the body can handle is not, it's not optimal. They're under too much stress.
Okay.
So then now you've got to look at how to reduce the amount of stress, or how to help their recovery process so that they can handle more stress. So, so then you have to start looking at their sleep. You have to start looking at their diet. You have to start looking at what kind of exercise they're doing. In quite a few of my patients, you'll see that they're doing too much. They're exercising too much, and they're exercising too hard in the mistaken belief that more exercise is actually healthier. But like I said earlier, everything is stress, including the exercise is stress. So if you over exercise on a life that is already filled with your work stress, and your scheduling around the family and your relationships, then the exercise, instead of helping you, now starts to drag you down. And you can see that you're getting dragged down, and you double down and you work even harder in the gym. And this is when you get a heart attack while you're at the gym. And the gym gets blamed, but it's not the gym's fault. Is it?
So, how much of it is too much? At what point do we realize it's too much?
Well, an easy way to figure out if you're doing too much is that if your sleep is disturbed. So if you're exercising hard on a day and your night sleep is getting disturbed, and you'll notice it. You'll have thoughts running through your head. You'll be tossing and turning. You'll wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and you'll not be able to go back to sleep. Or you'll wake up at 3 o'clock. You'll feel sleepy by around 5:30, and then you'll knock off and you'll be off till 9 a.m. unless somebody's waking you up.
Okay.
So all of that is a sign that your cortisol system is on high overdrive, and it's not able to bring you back down. If your resting heart rate is high at night, so if you're tracking your heart rate at night, yeah, that's one way to find out. If you're falling sick with all the regular, every small cold that goes by, you catch it, and then you stay sick with it for weeks together. That's again a sign that your immune system is suffering.
Okay.
Um, so all of these things will give you an idea that you're under a lot of load.
And also, again, when we are talking about training, how much of it is too much? Isn't strength training also a non-negotiable?
Yes, strength training is not as
Very
negotiable.
well. Yes.
Yeah.
And how many minutes, at least, how many minutes in a day should a founder find for himself or herself to address this?
So I look at the absolute minimum that is required, and I am asking for just 3 sets of an exercise. So 3 sets of push-ups and 3 sets of squats. That should take you maybe 20 minutes. And I'm not, and the number of reps in that set will depend on your capacity. So if I so in my routine, I'm doing 100 push-ups and 100 squats in 20 minutes. But I didn't start off like that. I started off with 10 push-ups and 10 squats, and I gradually built up to 100 over 2 years. But it still takes only 15 to 20 minutes a day. And after that, I don't spend any other time exercising. Um, so I think that's the bare minimum. That's the bare minimum. Three sets of push-ups and squats.
And what does that do to your body? How does that help you?
Uh, of course, it's not enough, but you need to add more like pull-ups and everything. But then it'll take care of your lower limb strength. It'll take care of your upper body strength. It'll give so that 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 is the bare minimum strength requirement. You should be able to do some push-ups. You should be able to get up off the floor on your own unassisted. You should have the flexibility to get down on the floor. So all of this comes in when you talk about push-ups and squats. Again, pull-ups, which is why pull-ups, and then
This is the smallest effective dosage for
Yeah.
people who say that they don't usually have time.
Yeah, so you don't need a lot of time. You don't need to go to a gym. Even if you're traveling somewhere, you can work out in your hotel room. So, which is why I said 3 push-ups and 3 sets of push-ups and squats. Anybody can do that.
Okay. So I'm also wondering, while we speak about this, and I'm sure you must have also told your patients, and I'm sure most of them also must have seen it as a chore. Right. How can we help founders see this as a leadership tool?
Well, see, quite a few of my patients have asked them to work out in the office.
Okay.
And I'm not asking for, when I say 3 sets of push-ups and squats, I don't want them done in the morning. Do it whenever you get the chance.
Okay.
So 1 set of push-ups or 1 set of squats is going to take you 30 seconds. And if your team sees you working out in your office for 30 seconds, some of them are going to laugh at you, but most of them are going to be inspired, I think.
Okay.
So that is one way to, I think that's how we should lead.
Without burning ourselves out.
Yeah.
And for someone who already knows that they're running on fumes, where should they start? Same place?
It's 30 seconds of work, right? I'm just asking for 30 seconds of work. Now, 30 seconds of work is also a stress, but it's a short stress. And what it really does is it'll shake your body out of that chronic stress mode. So you give a short spike of intense stress. That intense stress then breaks you out of the chronic low level stress that you have. So this comes out of the studies that you see on prey animals and predator animals, where you get chased by a lion or something, and the deer escapes. The chase is very short. It's only 30 seconds. You're working very hard. The deer is working very hard. The deer escapes, and then it stops, it pants, it shakes itself, and then it's good to go again. So it doesn't stay in that chronic stress, I'm being chased by a lion. So these intermittent intense efforts through the day will make you healthier rather than spending 1.5 hours in the gym
In the gym in total.
in total.
Okay.
So that is where I would ask people to start with when they're running on fumes. I don't want you to take 1 hour out of your day. I'm asking you to do 30 seconds thrice a day, 1.5 minutes of hard work thrice a day. And I'm asking you to do that only thrice a week. So it's 90 seconds into three is.
So I think this is a good perspective. And I also want to understand from you, how do we actually help founders to respect their body again? It's not just about fixing things.
Mm.
So founders often are in a mindset to fix things.
Yeah.
So and that is also typically why I think that, I'll keep it for later because I have to fix it.
Yeah.
It'll take time. I
Yeah.
need to fix it.
Yeah.
But then how do we change that narrative?
So if you let, s- I think most of them are stuck in that firefighting mode where they see just next day, next day, next day. You need to make them stop and take a look at the end point. You need to ask them to look down the line at 30 years down the line, or 20 years down the line, or even 10 years down the line, and ask them, where do you think your health will be in 10 years down the line? So that wake up call in my case came up when I looked at my son for the first time, and I realized that I wouldn't last 20 years to see him go off to college or get married and have kids of his own. So once I saw that and I saw how short life is, you need to be aware of how short life is and when that death is always around the corner.
Absolutely.
It's not some imaginary date in the future.
It's about how you live life mindfully.
Yeah. And so if you let them see that in the long term, this is not a winning strategy that they're playing. They're thinking more like middle management than a CEO, then they should turn around. Right now they don't realize that in the long term this is going to happen. Or even if they do, nobody's holding up a mirror to their face and saying, this is where you're going. Uh, when somebody tries to do that, they're turning their face away and looking at something else. Um, so I'm pretty brutal when it comes to my patients. I think if this keeps up, you're not going to last another 10 years.
Okay.
It might be a little, most of the time they will last beyond 10 years. But
You're just being brutal with them. So that they
I,
look at
I
their
am
own
actually
thinking.
trying to frighten them.
Okay.
But I would rather frighten them so that they change course
course,
now.
yeah.
Because most of the time they're not going to end up dead. They're going to end up in an ICU, and that is going to take a toll on them financially, mentally, and physically. Or they're going to end up having a chronic disease that is not very reversible, and now they're going to take. So now their performance is going to drop. So when you show it in terms of that, like if you continue down this path, you're not going to be able to do you're not going to attain your purpose in life. Uh, your physical balance is going to run out before your bank balance runs out, or you reach your aim in your industry. Then they will rethink.
I'm also curious when you spoke about how you care for your patients to bring them back. As a parent, what are you teaching your kids about movement, resilience, and self care? What are you teaching your kids?
So both of them, for some reason, are very driven when it comes to exercise and uh, studies.
Okay.
So they are pushing very hard. They're pushing much harder than I ever did. Uh, and that might be because of the trauma I've inflicted upon them. That is why, maybe, I don't know. But most of the time, I'm telling them to back off. So you're studying too hard or you're exercising too hard, and you need to back off. You need to take more rest. And sometimes I have to let them crash and burn because I can see that they're exercising too hard and they're going to get injured in the future. But they won't listen. I know that they won't listen. So I let them crash and burn. Then when they come back to me for advice, I'll say, I knew this was coming, but I wanted you to learn this hard lesson. So that is how I'm teaching them right now.
Okay.
So they're young right now and they can absorb a little bit of physical damage. So it's okay. And so I tell them that too. See, right now I'm letting you push hard. because you're still under 20 and you can push hard. Uh, and I know you'll bounce back. But you have to look at me and see how careful I am with my training and my efforts at work, so that you have a model to look at. I am not going on all cylinders all the time like I used to in the past. I'm
Evolved off. You evolved.
yeah. So this is how you should be doing it. I'm telling you to do it right now, even though it doesn't feel like it at your
Okay.
teenage. So that's the lesson I'm giving them. I'm also telling them to uh, n- not be so hyper focused, because once they're sitting in front of the books and they're hitting it hard, they don't get up. So I ask them to move throughout the day, which is also the advice I'm giving my patients. So every 20 to 30 minutes, I'm asking them to stand up, do a set of push-ups, and come back. So the same advice that I give my children is the advice I'm giving my patients too. And I'm asking them to track their sleep, and I'm asking them to make sure that their diet is on point, and they're usually better with their diet than I am. So that way, yeah.
Okay, what's your take on these smart wearables? How far do you think it can help people track their health?
Well, I'm a big believer. I usually use a lot of multiple smart watches. They're very cheap now, very accurate, but you can't trust them 100%. So the two main kinds of devices that I'm used to are the smartwatches and then the continuous glucose monitor, both of which are very handy. Uh, you shouldn't take the absolute numbers that you see on these smartwatches, uh, because it's not going to be as good as a medical grade device, but still they come very close. What is really good about them is that you can use them at home and you can use them in real life.
Okay.
And the way you should be using them is to take a series of readings, and then see what the trend is. So you do a series of readings and you find what your baseline is, and then you intervene. So for example, you find somebody with a lack of deep sleep, uh, or you find a lot of fragmentary deep sleep. You intervene, you make one small intervention and see how it changes your deep sleep quantity. um, and then if that works, you keep that, and then you add the next change, and then you add the next change. So it's a long drawn out process. It doesn't You don't add 10 different interventions into changing your deep sleep quantity and then see what it does. No, you stack.
Okay.
You
Build up.
Yeah, you build up, you find what works. Even if it's a small improvement in the trend, you keep it and then you add the next one. So that's how I use the activity trackers. Now the sleep tracking is really valuable, uh, but you'll have to find a device that works for you, because some algorithms don't do well with your particular sleep pattern, in which case you'll take that watch off and hand it over to somebody in your family and see what it measures on them. So you'll have to do your own trial and error to find out which watch works best for you. And luckily enough, it's quite easy because it's very cheap. All of these watches are very cheap, 3,000 to 5,000 range. The And so you can also use it to set reminders as to every 15-20 minutes stand up. So you've got movement reminders.
Okay.
You can use it to track how much you're walking. Now, walking is very important because it's an easy way to drop your calories, burn your fat, without worsening your stress. So I usually use the activity tracker to try and motivate my patients to move a lot more. I don't want exercise or workout. I want movement. So yeah, so that's where the activity tracker.
Curious, how good is barefoot walking?
Yeah, I've been walking barefoot for years now. Well, how good is it? Depends on what your. I think everybody should walk barefoot. That I'll say that out in the outset. But then depends on whether your feet can take it and where your environment permits it, and whether you're going to be able to take the strange looks when you're walking around barefoot everywhere. All of that. But yeah, you can build up to walking barefoot, and I think it is necessary. multiple facets to why barefoot walking is important. One is that it gives you sensory feedback and your balance improves. The other is that it activates the intrinsic muscles in your feet, and that makes your foot architecture better, and that has knock-on effects in the entire superstructure, and that makes your posture better. There's also the electrical side to things where it grounds you. It literally grounds you the way the electrical circuits are grounded. So inflammation is associated with a charge, a residual charge in your body, and that if you can get in touch with the Earth's source of the Earth is rather rich in electrons, so you can get rid of that positive charge and you draw up the electrons from the ground into your body. That improves your inflammatory status. So yeah, walking barefoot.
What's the best time in the morning?
Anytime,
Anytime.
anytime, and it doesn't. And so electrons move instantly, so you don't need to walk for half an hour to get rid of all of your electrical charge. You just need to touch the ground 5 or 10 times a day. So just for a few seconds, 10 or 30 seconds. Um, the other thing is the mindset change that it brings across. When you got a pair of heavy boots on your foot, you can tramp through whatever is in front of you. You don't even have to pay attention to what's on the ground. So there's a lot of mindlessness that comes along with wearing heavy footwear. But when you're barefoot, you are going to tread softly, literally tread softly, because you uh, you are now conscious of your weight upon the earth and the way the earth pushes back. So even if you're barefoot and you're walking mindfully, you might be able to get away without. You might be able to walk on glass without puncturing your feet if you're walking properly, if your foot is ready for it, if your skin is ready for it. Yeah. So there is also a massive mindset change when you start walking barefoot and when you start going minimalist, not just bare feet, reducing the amount of clothing and umbrellas and roofing over you. All of that makes a big difference.
Probably you've accumulated so much of knowledge over the years and you've been passing it down without hesitation to your, not only your patients, also your loved ones around you. In the process, I also want to ask you, there is a lesson still you're learning.
Yeah. Uh, See, it's I'm offering this knowledge that I have. It's it's part of my growth also. So I pick up something from somewhere, I put it into practice in my life, and then I see it works, and I offer it to the people around me. And not everyone accepts it. So there's a lot of rejection. So what I offer is not always received. Quite a bit of it is rejected, and sometimes I get a lot of nasty pushback. And being able to take that rejection and that pushback has been difficult. Uh, and I'm still learning how to deal with that rejection and uh, how to how to not react negatively when what I'm offering is not received. Yeah.
Otherwise, what's your reaction to it? Just for my understanding.
So you see somebody who's suffering, and you know how to fix them. This is that founder fixing thing you're talking about. You know how to fix them and you want to fix them. And now, because I want to fix them, I'm trying to force my mindset upon them. They're not ready for it. Uh, and there's no guarantee that what I'm trying to force upon them is the right fit for them. Uh, so that leads to a lot of friction and it leads to conflict, especially if it is somebody that you care about. And when they reject you, you don't want to give up because you're busy trying to fix them and trying to save them. If it is somebody you don't care about, well, you'll offer it, it's not there, fine, gone. Uh, so when that rejection occurs, it hurts me. So that is the stress I deal with.
Okay. And in that process, in such moments, what is a habit that helps you reconnect with yourself? What do you do?
Uh, I have to. What I'm doing right now is uh, what I'm doing right now is I'm starting to tell myself that their rejection doesn't mean what I offered was not valuable. So earlier I used to think that it's rejected. It means it was worthless, or they think I'm worthless. No, I don't think that way. If they accept it, that's their win or their benefit. But whether they accept it or not doesn't really seem to affect me as much as used to before. So that has reduced quite a bit of the stress in my life.
What helps you unwind? What do you do for fun, for yourself?
Oh, man, in tough question. Um, I don't have a lot of unwinding happening in my life right now because I am running up to being honest.
Okay.
So the best way to unwind for me would be to spend time on my own.
Okay.
But because I'm doing so many things at once, I don't get any alone time anymore. So yeah, I'm not exactly practicing what I preach. So all my holidays are also taken up
Okay.
in doing something with someone. I don't have any alone time for myself. That used to keep me relaxed. That's not there anymore. 24/7, I'm with somebody, something, doing something or the other. So yeah, I need to stop doing that.
And I couldn't also help notice that you write very well. You pen your thoughts very well. And drawing from one of those instances that I read, I just want to understand if there's a moment that you'll carry with you forever. What is that single precious moment that you'll carry with you forever?
No, every moment is precious. The moments that are especially precious, I will write about. And that is how I carry it with me.
What comes to you right now when I asked you about it?
I, uh, I'm literally blacked out. Uh, I can't think of a particular moment. Well, there was one moment where I almost drowned in the sea, and
Okay.
so that moment was precious.
What is that about? Would you care to share?
I have written about it, but yeah, I'll tell you.
Okay.
So I had gone bodyboarding in Puduvai,
Okay.
and it was the evening. And bodyboarding, you need a little bit of waves. So it was. So I went into the water, and the waves were not very big. So I wanted to go a little deeper. So I went in deeper, and the tide pulled me out into the ocean. And so I was so busy trying to catch the next wave that I ended up in the middle of the ocean. It might not have been very far from the shore, but
But then you couldn't see the shore.
I couldn't see the shore.
Okay.
And I thought, okay, now I don't know where I am. I don't know how far the currents pull me. I can't see the lighthouse. I can't see anything. All around me is the sea. And I'm just getting, so I start paddling and I'm thrashing and I've got the board, so I'm not going to drown, but I'm not making any progress. Uh, so I started to think that it's probably over for me. So I pretty much made my peace with it. So then I turn around and the sun is setting and it's very beautiful. It is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. And the sun is reflecting off the waves. And that's so I was lost in that beauty for some time. That's the moment I'm thinking about when you said this. And then that for a few seconds I was lost there. Then I realized that's the setting sun. That means that's the west. So if I go that way, that's east, and I'm going to be back on the shore. So now I am oriented. So the sun tells me which direction I have to swim to. So now I can start swimming. So I start swimming, and again I thrash and I don't make any progress. Then I realized the waves are pushing me towards the east anyway, towards where I need to go. So I just need to stop struggling now, and I need to time my efforts in synchrony with the waves in order to get to the beach. So I'd wait, and every time the wave would feel, you'd feel the swell behind you building up, and then every time the wave would push, I would push along with it. And then within a few minutes, I could see the tops of the coconut trees, and then I could see the lighthouse, and okay. Then I got back to the shore. So yeah, that was a. I didn't learn any lessons on that day, but I kept revisiting that event, and it has given me a lot of
Lessons.
lessons in which how to live my life.
Hmm.
You've got to have a. You need to be oriented in your surroundings, right? And you've got to orient yourself with something that's dependable. To me, that was the sun. There's nothing more dependable than the sun. You have to be able to look at, even when you're close to death. At that point, I thought I was going to die. You should be able to look around and see beauty. And because I saw beauty and I got mesmerized by it, it gave me the time to calm down and reorient myself. So beauty is important in life. And then the other thing I learned was that if you thrash around without an aim, you're not going to go anywhere. You're going to drown. So if you time your efforts with your environment, if you rest enough, you'll be able to make it. You'll be able to make it to the destination. So rest and timing and orientation and beauty and what really matters in life. Because at that point, when I was going to die, what I was thinking was, my sons are on the shore and they've got no way of getting home if I die. Of course, it's Cochin. You can find a time, but still, that's so. That's when I
The father in you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, so even at that point, these are the thoughts that went through my head. So at, I wasn't bothered about me dying. I was bothered about them getting home safely. So now, once you start thinking about things that are outside yourself, bigger than yourself, and you orient yourself properly, you get to where you want to. So I think that should be the message you should be sending to your founders also.
Absolutely. I think that was also my next question, but it beautifully aligned. And you gave me this story, which I think beautifully resonates with a founder who is in pursuit of their big goals. And my takeaway from this conversation, the greatest takeaway is what I've written down. The greatest strength is in knowing when to rest and how to build a body that lasts as long as your vision. That is my biggest takeaway.
Yes.
Thank you, doctor, for coming and having this conversation with me. Thank you. As before we part ways, there is a practice that we have here. Uh, we have a notebook that we're going to give, and please write a note to your younger self. Uh, this is not for me, not for the viewers, but to your younger self. What actually would you want to say to a young Lewis before he became Dr. Lewis? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, doctor.